This is Matt Gerard with Downrange Firearms. I'm here today to talk to you about the parts and components of your standard rifle scope and all the good stuff and why those components are important and what to be looking for. What I have here is a Viper PST Gen 2 optic. I'm a big fan of these. I've run one of these on one of my rifles. I know more than a few law enforcement agencies that have their snipers running these optics. It's a great quality optic at a fair price. So let's start talking about some of the features on this. Let's start at the front and work our way to the back. So this back here is your objective lens, okay? The diameter of this determines light transmission, all right? The bigger the number here, whether it's 46 millimeter, 50 millimeter, 54 millimeter, etc., the bigger it is, the more light this objective lens will take in, the brighter the image you're gonna see on the other end of the optic. Moving backwards from there, we've got this wonderful erector assembly. It's this whole box that kind of holds the guts of that optic in place. That kind of handles adjustments for windage, elevation, etc. So let's starting off on the closest side here to you, we have our windage adjustment. The nice thing about this is how tactile those clicks are. Awesome, awesome, awesome feature, especially of this scope. This one is in mil-radians, which is just an angular measurement. We can get into that in a different video. But that right there controls your windage. So when you're looking through the crosshair, that'll move that reticle left and right. Our top turret right here, that's our elevation adjustment. That literally moves the crosshair up and down. Same thing, it's got mil-radian adjustments. On the far turret right here, it's gonna be on the left side of your optic. Typically, there are some optics that have it mounted on the bell, but most of the ones you're gonna see, at least sold here, that we're gonna talk about are going to be side focused, also known as your parallax adjustment. What that does is it takes the focal plane of your crosshair and puts it on the same one as your target. So when you're looking through the scope, your crosshair will be in focus, so will the target that you're shooting at that appropriate distance. On that parallax adjustment, you'll see ranges etched into the side of that turret or painted on the edge of that turret. That gives you a rough idea of what that distance is. Ultimately though, you have to use your personal eye to look through it and ensure that that reticle is in focus and so is your target. When you do that, even if you have a less than perfect eye position on it, as long as your parallax and your side focus are perfect, it'll allow for that and it won't have that reticle shift. If it's out of alignment and that parallax is wrong, you'll see the reticle moving on a still image depending on your position behind the rifle. So that kind of eliminates that error. Moving back from there, we have our magnification ring that cranks up, cranks down. This particular optic goes down to 3 power and all the way up to 15. I like that magnification range, especially from the law enforcement side. It's a perfect magnification setup for that, and it's easy to work with and use. Plenty of magnification on the long end, and it doesn't go, and it really cranks down, so if you are in a closer distance, it's very, very useful. And then on the back side of this itself is our ocular lens, all right? This is also our main focus. So when we first set up our scope, when we first put it on the rifle, we're gonna focus on the crosshair to ensure it's absolutely crisp and crystal clear, and that's done from this back end of that ocular eyepiece. Once that's set up and squared away, you're ready to roll. Things to pay attention to on these scopes. One, this comes with an extra feature. It has a lit reticle. So that's that side one. So I've got the focus and then come back a little bit, and then now I've got the lit reticle. I can change the brightness setting on that reticle from that turret right there. From the law enforcement side, from the hunting side, it's very, very useful to have that because it'll make sure that black reticle becomes visible, especially in lower light conditions. And the last thing I really want to talk about is that parallax. I kind of mentioned that real quick in passing. So things to pay attention to. Lower cost scopes are going to have a very narrow parallax, which means adjusting them is going to be very, very tough because you don't have real fine gradients. It's just a massive bulk shift from 0 to 1,000 basically in a tiny, tiny amount of turn. The more money you typically spend, the more range you're gonna have. So you have to spin further for smaller adjustments. That's actually to your benefit. That's gonna allow you to get a more precise, more perfect adjustment. Definitely something worth paying attention to, depending on what kind of shooting you're doing. If you really are in like the precision rifle series, you like to shoot out to 1,000 or longer yardage, you're gonna need more adjustment to be able to get those good hits, just to ensure that even if your eye is not perfectly aligned, you're still gonna, the focal point is going to allow it so that you don't need to be. The longer range shooting, the more difficult shooting you're going to be doing, the more you're going to need to pay attention to things like that. But Overall, these are great optics. Those are the parts that you need to be paying attention to, what they do and why they're important. If you have any questions, throw them in the comments. Otherwise, like, share, tag, all that good jazz. Thanks for tuning in.